Hello. Sorry, I've not been around very much. It's been an action-packed week in one way or another. I think it always takes me a bit to kind of come round when the clocks change. I think it's because I identify as a winter person, so it's like, oh, what do you mean I can take some layers off? She says, sat in a big jumper because it's, it's a little bit chillier this morning. But it always takes me a bit, I think, to decompress and peel off some layers because I like being cosy and comfortable. But yeah, today I just wanted to talk about a little bit of good news and what can happen as a side effect, if you like, in hypnosis, because people often come with a whole laundry list of things, and it's like, well, we kind of have to narrow it down to one or two things that your mind is probably likely to connect as all coming from the same source, because your mind will create lots of things as a response to things, and some of those will be connected and some of those won't be. So you can imagine some like fear, anxiety, depression might be coming, low self-esteem, low self-worth are likely to be coming from a very similar position, but the reason you're smoking may be different, very different from whatever's causing your skin irritation, or, whatever you might can come up with in your own head, like an infertility problem or a problem with a boil on your foot or something like that. They're not necessarily linked or coming from the same source in your mind. So I just wanted to kind of tell a tiny bit of one of my clients' experiences over the last, I can't remember quite when we did the treatment, possibly November time, something like that. And like many people, the main kind of issue, and when we say the kind of main issue, that's really the symptom and not the problem. So whatever you present with when you come for hypnosis, that's not really what we're dealing with in a way. It's what caused you to have that thing. So that's what we're looking for, really, because that's just whatever your body flags, whatever your mind sends to your body and says, oh, display a bit of that, we need help with whatever up here, maybe that'll get somebody's attention, or maybe it'll provoke you to do something about it. You know what I mean? So it's what you think of as the presenting problem often isn't, but for many people, it is they've just got to a point in their lives where they've are just feeling really listless. Like, what is life all about? Am I supposed to be doing this? Sometimes it's a case, I've got all this free time and I'm so lucky I have this and I have that and I have the other thing. So why am I unhappy? And then let me beat myself up for being guilty about not being made more grateful for what I have. We do have a habit of doing this as people. And so often clients will present with a variation of this. I was just helping a man in South Africa with something similar the other day. So it's important to figure out, well, where did life go off course? Where did you decide that there was nothing more available to you, or that you couldn't or shouldn't enjoy your life, or you shouldn't ask for more, or why are you guilty over what it is that you have? Do you feel not worthy of having what you have? We kind of go back and look at all kinds of things like that. And there is an aspect, of course, as well, for many people, that are either heading towards middle age or in middle age. Don't like to think of myself as middle aged. I'm heading towards upper middle age, I guess, but I don't like that idea. But you know what I mean? It's like that empty nest syndrome. It's like my children are gone. They were my reason for living. I threw my all into them. For some stay-at-home mums, that was my career, it was what I did every day, it was the source of my daily routine. So when that stops, and kids have this nasty habit of just not being in touch once they're gone, they just get on with their own lives and check in with you once in a while, but you're basically left to just figure out your own life. They're not checking in with you and going, all right, Mum, what's your day been like? What do you need to do? What do you want out of life now? They're not doing that, are they? So you're kind of left as an empty nester to fathom it out. And for some people, this might be even having to get back into the dating pool if they've been single parent of some kind. So there can all be all kinds of fears and anxieties and worries and self-worth issues and anything you've never dealt with in your childhood that's been put in abeyance by dealing with other people's lives and other people's upbringings or other people's problems. You know, when that's not there anymore, suddenly you have to deal with your own life again. And so for a lot of people, they will feel flat and listless and not quite know how to change up all of that, or have kind of got a bit comfortable with having less sometimes, or not asking for more. So we kind of, but that leaves you kind of thinking, is this depression? Is this what depression looks like? Am I depressed? Do I have a real problem? So it's up to me to kind of just zap you with a cattle prod and realise you've got a lot available to you, and that you're worthy of it, and that you should go after new things and enjoy what you have and not worry about what you have and all of that kind of thing. So this session that happened in November-ish time last year, it was kind of like that type of thing, I would say, in general. So at the last minute, this idea of, it was kind of thrown in as an afterthought that, I've kind of stopped driving as well, which was quite interesting. And I didn't want to make it the focus of the session because it wasn't an immediate problem as such. So it was like, that's interesting. And, they had this really nice new car, and it's like, I'm not afraid of the car, I'm not afraid of damaging it, but I don't know, there's just something I'm not interested in driving. So that, when you can drive and you don't drive, it does tend to limit you a bit. And so we know there's some reason for that. There's some reason or whatever. And I had a sense, I knew what it was. And my own sense about it, I think I can say that without, causing any problems for my client or anything. My own feeling about it was that subconsciously she possibly just felt she needed to be looked after for a while. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you've had a hard time and you've been through a lot and you've taken a lot of emotional battering in one kind or another, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey up, as we say in Yorkshire, hey up, I just need to be looked after for a little while, and I'm not going to beat myself up over that. And that can show up in any number of ways, this desire or need, if you've got a partner, or if you've got family, or if you've got somebody willing to just look after you and nurture you in whatever way is available to them for a little while. There's nothing wrong with you saying, I'm just going to I've been through a lot, I'm going to allow myself to be looked after in this one way for a little while until I figure out what's going on, or until I feel better. To me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know we're all supposed to be self-sufficient in all ways, but, if you're knackered up, there's nothing wrong with somebody looking after you for a bit. So I wasn't over worried about the not driving the car aspect of it. I just thought it was symptomatic of something else. But anyway, my client checked in with me yesterday and sent me this lovely picture of her driving and smiling. And I kind of asked about it, because the other things had been dealt with and resolved through the use of RTT and the work we'd done, and it had unravelled over time, as these things often do, because when you change one thing or one feeling, then you change your daily habits will change in some way. The way you go out into the world will change in a little bit of way, and little bits of different things will come to you. And that grows and snowballs, as we've said, and changes into other things. And it's all in a positive, unfolding kind of manner. So basically that's been what's happening for my client. You just get to look at life a little bit differently, and what's available to you and what you might like to do. So that's what's been happening. So to get this photo yesterday so I said, well, what happened? Because we didn't really, I put a little bit of it into their recording about driving, but not a ton of it, because like I say, I just didn't think it was the problem as such. I wasn't worried about it in any sense in dealing with this client. And what was lovely was, well, it just wasn't even a thing almost. I think they were just going to the car or whatever, and she just said, I'll drive. Just as simple as that. And with hypnosis and healing, that's often how it is. It's just suddenly not an issue. What was an issue is suddenly just not an issue. And there's not even a, it's just how it is. I'm just going to drive. I'm just going to do it now. But it was just lovely that she sent me a photo, and that's what's really nice about doing this work, is that it's not just this immediate thing and then people forget about you or whatever, or there's it is that gentle unfolding, because you might get those immediate changes, but more likely you tend to see a bit of this and then a bit of that and then a bit of the other thing, and then suddenly there's this real turnaround. And what I do love to see on my clients, and what I was saying yesterday in my private group, is when you do see people taking action in their lives and doing those things that they once thought were hard, you do see a blossoming. And I can see it as a therapist that often people will look more handsome, more beautiful, and it's because you're more connected back in. You're being who you truly are. You do start glowing from within when you deal with the issues and start loving yourself a bit more, because when you start loving yourself, you see yourself differently in the mirror. You know, your face will grow more beautiful the more that you love yourself, and the more you tell yourself that you love yourself. And that love for yourself and going after the things in your life that you want to do and being brave and showing up, other people will be able to witness that too. And they will probably ask you what you've been doing, what you've been using on your skin. Have you changed your diet? Have you been doing this? You know, I see it clearly. And that's how you know as well that you're doing the right thing in life, when you can see it in your face. And you can see outward effects. You know, we spend all this time beating up on ourselves for our bodies and our faces and all of this. And all of that self-loathing does tend to make us feel ugly. And when we look in the mirror, we tell ourselves we look ugly too, or we look different, or we're not as good as somebody else, or whatever it is. But yeah, I notice it. I notice clients glowing and changing. And that starts from the moment that you come out of hypnosis. People will often have this lovely rosy flush to their cheeks. They'll look like they've had a really, really good sleep. They'll have a big grin, whereas, you know, in all of the stuff up to having a session, they might have had very tight and pinched features. There might have been very little in the way of smiling or letting go. You know, I see it happen, and it's a lovely thing to be a part of with my clients, and especially when people keep in touch and let you know. The worst thing in the world for me is when people have the therapy and don't keep in touch, because I like to know that it's working, that they got the results they wanted, and it keeps me on track. It keeps me knowing what's working, what I can improve on, and all of that, which is why I follow up through with clients for that 3-week period while they're doing the transformational recording. But I always say, you can always come back to me at any point. I'm happy to know. You know, it's the worst thing in the world to me when people don't communicate during that 3-week period, because I like to be able to help you. You know, yesterday my client said, you know, because often clients will worry when they go off with their own recording. I don't know if I'm doing this properly. I don't seem to visualize the steps at the beginning. I seem to be twitching or moving or thinking, am I doing this right? And this process only doesn't really work. I mean, it always works in some way or other, but the only way it doesn't work is when you spend all your time questioning it and judging it and not just doing it and forgetting about it. Marissa Peer would say JFD, just effing do it, you know, and that's basically all you need to do with your recording when I send you off with it. Is not to overthink it, just to do it. Follow the steps at the beginning, and don't be wondering, I can't see this, I can't see that, I can't visualise the other. Just do your recording, forget about it. So yeah, my client mentioned this yesterday, and that is the thing with men, is they will often overthink it or judge it, or saying, yeah, but I twitched just then and that must have ruined it, or I felt I needed to scratch my nose and I daredn't because would that bring me out of hypnosis? It doesn't. So I was able to send this clip over of Marissa Peer doing an RT session with this lady who literally you just would not know she was in hypnosis if you'd not seen her going into hypnosis at the beginning, because she was blowing her nose, she was dabbing her eyes with a tissue, she was twitching, she was pushing her hair back, you know, she was moving. That doesn't mean you're not in hypnosis. You know what I mean? It really doesn't. So because my client got in touch with me and asked about it, I was able to solve his query for him and give him some reassurance, and then he's able to go off and do that recording more meaningfully and not worrying about it and not overanalyzing it. So my work is only more difficult when people, and life itself in general is only more difficult when people won't communicate with you, you know. So that is the process, the basis on which I work, is that I want change for you. So if you don't feel you're getting there, then you must let me know, because something can always be done about it. And that is the ethos on which I work. I don't work on the basis of go off, maybe allow it to fall apart or whatever, and don't let me know. You know, that's no good to me and it's no good to you. So that is why I do like my clients to keep in touch, because as I say, what are we now, maybe 4 months down the line, not only have you had so many changes along the way, suddenly you're driving a car you weren't driving 4 months ago too. And of course now once you're driving the car you weren't driving, your world opens up even more, you know what I mean? So it will always unfold. Even one session will keep unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. So that's why it's really important to treat yourself to having RTT and just seeing what comes out of it, because it will touch your life in all kinds of ways. So that is why I say book a free call with me and let's get started. You don't have to choose to go ahead, but you can talk to me about it and I'll tell you whether I think I can help you or not. So to do that, you just go to www.charmedlifetherapy.co.uk/call, and I will put the link in the description too. And there's absolutely no obligation, no sales pitch. We just go through everything that's bothering you, and we talk a little bit about what you would want to get out of it and a tiny little bit about your childhood. And that's it really. That's all there is to it. And I can allay any of your fears or worries about the process at all too. All right, thank you for watching. I will see you later.